So, we've done ed tech, we've done energy. We are moving right along into our mobility block. The mobility block is really special because we have a couple of things coming up which are all interconnected. On the topic of mobility and sustainability, we have the next 2 sessions on mobility data. The CIO of Flix is going to be here. He's going to be giving a keynote and then taking part in a panel. And if I have my way, he will also be in the speaker's lounge. I'll see what I can do to send him over there. The next block will have an aviation focus. We're going to talk about autonomous mobility after that. And keeping with our mobility theme, we will close it out with a keynote from Minister Wissing. So lots to be optimistic about. We're just getting the stage set up. How many of you are working in mobility? One guy. No, put your hands up. Oh, a couple. Oh, several of you. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. I'm going to call that like a third of you, maybe. That's always good to know who we're talking to. So this next session is going to be about shipping reshaped, exploring seamless digital logistics. I'm looking forward to learning more about logistics, specifically the logistics of how quickly they can put the stage back together so you don't have to listen to me talk anymore. Are they ready? Yeah? Okay. Without further ado, let's bring up our panel, moderated by the Mobility Division Manager at Bitkom, Niels Heller, and his mobility panel. Welcome, Niels.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and hello, Neon Stage. We are very happy that you are here with us today, and we're looking forward to the next slot. As Sarah mentioned, we are focusing on mobility, and we're kicking off this part of the day, this last part of the day before we have our Minister of Transport here, with a topic that actually involves all of us in one way or the other. Today we're going to talk about logistics. And before I'm going to introduce my panelists, I'd like to know who of you is working in the field of logistics? Okay, a couple. Very good. And who of you isn't working in the field of logistics? Very good. That's a majority, and that's good, because we want to tell you a bit more about the status quo in the field. And we hope you're going to learn more about the state of art of digital logistics. And who knows, maybe you want to work in the field. As Sarah mentioned, this panel is titled Shipping Reshaped, Seamless Logistics. And when things are seamless, they need to come together from different ends. And that's why we have quite a diverse panel here today. And I'm quickly going to introduce my panelists. Right next to me, we have Phanthian. Phanthian is working for the Hamburg Port Authority. And she's driving forward the digital solutions that the port is using, be it drones, be it, I think you have submarines more or less anyway. So really lots of different things from the port side of you. Phanthian, we are very happy that you are here with us today. Yeah, give a round of applause for Phanthian, please.
Thank you.
And at Hub Berlin, we're always trying to bring on stage pioneers. And Hendrik here is definitely a pioneer. He founded his first startup at the age of 16 and managed to scale it up. And then in 2019, he co-founded Fernride. And he's going to talk a bit more about what he's doing. Hendrik, pleasure to have you here. And last but not least, Irene. Irene is the CEO and founder of NEUROSPACE, a new space company that actually produces a moon rover, and you can have a look at it next door at our global stage if you don't know what a moon rover looks like. And she's also active in the field of logistics, and we're going to learn about that a bit more. A big round of applause for Irene, please. So to kick off, I'd like to ask all of you to give the audience a better idea of what it is that you're actually doing in the field of logistics. And maybe, Irene, we're starting with you, because I could imagine that people think about space, and then they want, okay, how does logistics come into play? So what is it that you are doing?
So we have two topics. Besides the rovers, we actually started with building a deviceless tracking system. So it came up through a competition where a deviceless solution for tracking freight containers was needed. And so we were one of the last who really had this solution. And we have just combined space technologies, satellite imagery with neural network. And this was our solution, actually.
Okay, so cargo tracking here. Hendrik, what is it that you are working on?
Yeah, what we are doing is we are transforming the trucking industry. And what this transformation is all about is transforming the industry from manual diesel operated to autonomous and electric. And why we are doing this, transformation is basically because of the carbon emissions that come from diesel trucks. It's about 39% of the greenhouse gas emissions in transportation. Therefore, we wanted to change from diesel to electric. And on the other hand, the second challenge is that there are not enough truck drivers. Today, already 400,000 truck drivers are missing. And with those two problems at hand, we decided, let's transform the trucking industry towards autonomous and electric. And we wanted to do two things differently. And the first thing is we wanted to launch a product now. And what launching a product now means is launching it where it works already today. So we are focusing on ports, on distribution centers, on big industrial sites, so on private ground, where you can launch a product without changing any regulation. And this is what we've been doing with, for example, the Port of Hamburg, also with Volkswagen, with DB Schenker, and going then from this first step on yards, on private yards, to the open roads is what we're going to do next. And the second thing, and we probably speak about this later, is our unique approach to autonomous driving, where we really combine human skills with AI in a hybrid solution. So bringing the truck driver to a remote operator office and then enhancing those truck drivers, like drone pilots, with autonomous technologies. And yeah, this is what we're doing, building out of those technologies a one-stop shop solution for big logistics companies. And yeah, we are 120 people in the company, based in Munich, and yeah, raised more than 40 million in venture funding and are now ready to scale this company.
All right, thank you very much. So we already heard about the Port of Hamburg. Phanthian, what is it that you're doing? A port is a massive operation. So I think you work on many different ends, right?
Yes, first of all, Hamburg Port Authority is the infrastructure management company of the Port of Hamburg. We have two parts of the company, which is one side is the public authorities, and on another side is the commercial services. And my daily job is really to scale the innovations that we have put into our company, or it's even invented in our company, to bring it into a product and market that to external customers and also internal customer in the HPA. And why we are doing this, you can imagine Hamburg Port is middle in the cities. You cannot expand the size of the port as such on the land. Because we have the Schleswig-Holstein and Niedersachsen. So we have to live with the space that we have in the Port of Hamburg. And we have growing traffic on road and also on waterway. And that's why it drives us to use technologies and to bring up our capacities without expanding space. So there were a claim of the smartPORT launch in 2012 that we would like to increase our capacities using technologies, and that is actually the way we started our journey, using different cutting-edge technologies and solutions, like you have already said, drones. We are building up the port digital twin, and we are using quantum annealing services, for example, for traffic management.
And I already got the impression you're really open towards new technologies. You should have heard us backstage where Phanthian basically already connected with Irene. They just met, so I feel like we're going to have the rovers in the Port of Hamburg soon. But moving from the rovers again to your initial product, Irene. So whenever we're talking about digitization, we don't want to talk about just doing digitization for the sake of doing digital things, but we want to actually solve problems. And you already touched upon this a little bit, all of you. But what was the key problem you saw, and what's the key problem you're actually solving with your digital solution, with your cargo tracking and logistics?
Okay, so the task actually, which was an open competition, was at the end presenting a solution which should be deviceless, so no electrical components shall be needed to track a huge cargo container. And it was also very challenging because it's about the last mile. So it's not on the containers on a boat or something on a harbor, but as soon as they are then put on some different trucks, there are sub logistic companies working on it. So these big companies who own the container, they don't really have a clue where these containers finally land and so on. So this was the biggest pain point they had, to track this, but independently, not be dependent on these final logistic companies, but to do it very independently. So that's why we had this idea, why not using satellite imageries, because they are available then and they can survey all these ports and all these actually landmarks, area of interest, how we call it. And so we had this idea of using this, but it is not a real-time tracking system. This is also what we have to say. We can give them an overview of where, at which area currently all of their containers are, and we can identify certain of them and so on at a certain way. But it was during Corona time. At that time, digitalization was not that much into logistics, as we have figured out. So it was still, actually, they had a lot of money, logistics, especially here in Germany, and there was not such a need for all these things. Of course, container get lost and so on. But the understanding for neural network, IA, was not that big at the moment then still, and so the need was not there, but it changed a lot. Yes.
Has it improved the understanding for...
Of course. And of course, now where you have this ChatGPT and all these things, people just realize what's happening. That's why we also, with our robots, which we have there, people now understand you can apply these systems for so many situations. And so I think now people start to understand that what is all possible with these new type of technologies. Yeah.
That's really what it's all about, you know, like using technologies to solve problems and looking at the most pressing problem in the industry. I actually looked up some numbers. We as Bitkom have regular surveys where we ask both consumers but also companies what they think are the biggest challenges right now. And the latest survey we did for logistics companies actually said that 97% of the logistics companies, so basically every company, the biggest problem they see is the lack of skilled workers. Hendrik, where does tech come into play here? Just thinking, for example, I mean, you can use other examples, but for example, autonomous mobility. What's the benefit when it comes to challenges such as the lack of skilled workers? That is a problem for logistics, but also for many other industries.
Yeah, so why we founded the company was really to fix the backbone of global trade, what is logistics, and this backbone of logistics is the trucking industry. And when you look one level deeper, you find out that the backbone of the trucking industry is the truck drivers. And as you say it, basically every company is not finding any drivers anymore, and there is no other way. When we want to consume the way we are doing right now, and logistics is increasing year over year, every single year 3%. So the demand for trucking and logistics is increasing while we find less drivers. There is no other way than introducing technology and autonomous driving. And therefore, we decided, okay, how can we start already today of fixing this problem, since autonomous driving was always this distant dream of maybe it's going to launch in the next 5 years, but it never came anything closer than that. And therefore, we started in yards where you can already today launch those autonomous trucks You don't need to change the regulation there. You don't need to develop a product that works everywhere, but it works already somewhere. And we are helping here on 2 dimensions. The first one is the productivity. So by moving the truck driver to an office environment and letting the easy jobs be done by autonomous systems, we can let already 1 truck driver control up to 4 trucks right now. And the more data we collect, we introduce more and more autonomous driving features so that single truck driver can control up to 50 trucks in the future. So this is helping with this problem. And the second thing that where we're helping is, as this job that is today super, super hard, there are very good reasons why those trucking companies don't find any truck drivers, is moving into an office job. So the truck driver's job in the 21st century will be an office job. And when it's an office job, you can qualify completely different talent pools and access those talent pools. So at the moment, the typical truck driver is male and 52 years old. And by making it an office job, you can also get a more diverse and younger talent pool. And that's what the top #1 priority of all of our customers is.
So that's maybe also a call for action for everybody of you who doesn't work in the logistics industry. If you're interested in an interesting office job and want to steer some trucks, reach out to Hendrik. And another fun fact, you can also go next door, because the Moon rover is actually also operated through an Xbox controller I think you have here. So just, it's worth a visit. Phanthian, how's the situation when it comes to lack of skilled workers from your perspective, from the perspective of a port authority? Is that something you're also looking at when you're dealing with tech, or is it more, since you're focusing on infrastructure, you have other things that are on a higher priority list for you?
Actually, we have a very critical situation right now when it's come to recruit people. And we are in the transitional period right now where you have these old skill works, and you have also these cutting-edge technology works, which in the same environment. And we need both worlds still. And how we are going to make the transition work smoothly is actually the biggest challenge that we have today. The people working in the Port Authority, mostly at the age of also 55, but we are seeing also that the young people who find the port very attractive would like not to work any longer in the traditional way. One example I can give you: every day there is a troop we send out in the port just to inspect roads, and they have to drive with cars, and then at some point they have to walk. Maybe 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers. And right now we are sending drones out to just inspect the road within maybe 10 minutes, and then they come back. First, you reduce the driving distance from your office to that road sections. Second, you can detect the data, and it could be transferred directly into your cloud systems, and then you could start analyzing the visuals and the images that you get. So the job profile will be totally different. Like the truck drivers is now moving the joystick and not the wheel, or not the steering wheel. And that is actually where we have to go with transferring the job profile together with adopting new technologies in the organization.
So all of you actually pointed out at the benefits of fostering digital solutions in logistics. But we all know that particularly in this very country, in Germany, digitization is not always met with open arms, and there are a couple of obstacles on the way. So from your view, from your day-to-day business, where do you see some obstacles, be it in Germany or also the best practices in other countries that we could learn from when it comes to fostering your digital solutions? Or do you say, oh, we feel there's a general momentum now, maybe with the rise of AI and so on? Irene, what's your experience with this?
I think, of course, if you have this development of deep tech technology, it takes time. So what is always necessary is that you get support, but it has to come very fast. So applications for funding in Germany takes a lot of time, and it is a lot of paperwork, too much sometimes, even for very few group of people to handle and so on. So these things, maybe making it easier, will solve a lot. So because at the beginning you need less money, actually you need money, but and you just need to consume less money. While you grow, you need more, of course. But the technology itself, especially if you have something like hardware, software development, it consumes money, and somehow until it finished. So this support at the beginning, this is very important, that you somehow can develop in a quite stable way and not have to see most of the time, how can I get my funding, where to get it, and all these things. And even most things make sense, like not only like going and pitching constantly to investors, but also having time to work on your system, getting forward with all these things. I think this is very important when state can support more efficient. In some parts of the world, it's been done better. So this is, I think, would be great, yeah.
Hendrik, you just closed the funding round. Congratulations, by the way. So you actually managed to get some funding. Maybe sort of two questions. So where do your investors come from? Do you also get money from Germany? And then maybe looking at operations, are you active in other countries as well? And if so, what are your experiences concerning general openness towards new solutions, such as the one that you are offering?
So what we wanted to build is really the category leader globally, but we start where we are born and raised as a company in Germany. And for building a digital logistics company transforming the trucking industry, there's actually no better place, since you have the right talent, you have the right customers, you have the right vehicle manufacturing partners, since we are making only the software. So we need companies that are great in making hardware. And for transforming now this industry that has been very successful in the past also into the future, it's a perfect ingredients that we can find in Germany. And what we find in the last couple of years with those leading customers like Volkswagen, DB Schenker, the Port of Hamburg, is a solution that works now, and now we're ready to scale. And where we got the money from is 50% from classical venture capital investors from Europe, also partially from the US, but also from corporate VCs like from Hala Next, from DB Schenker, from Kramer, like a trailer manufacturer. And we combine the best out of both worlds. And I think when you do this, you can really transform this industry together. And therefore, I believe the challenges of adopting new technology is obviously hard, but showing those examples in those organizations that are whether moving slowly, but successfully implementing those first pilot projects and scaling the first deployments is what we need to do now together, and celebrate those people in those larger organizations that take those big risks. And this is incredibly hard when risk, taking risk is not awarded that much in our culture itself, but even if you're in those large organizations, it's even harder. And therefore, if we can celebrate more those risk takers, this would be my single request, since everything else is there.
Okay, that's very good to hear. So definitely a competitive location here. Phanthian, I can tell you that when I was still in school, I actually used to work for a port authority, not in Hamburg, but I grew up in another coastal town. And my impression was that port authorities are very, very traditional. So I wonder, how is it for you as a person driving change, driving new technology? Are there internal challenges, or is it that you have the complete backing of the organization and you can just bring on new technologies as long as, of course, it works and it improves something?
If everything is going to be back, I don't think that my job will exist. So in the Port Authority, when I started 13 years back, so that even the word innovation, I don't think that it exists. And but the people get addicted or maybe injected by some of the initiatives that we have done, because what we have executed in in the Port Authority at the beginning is we adopted the mindset. In Hamburg, we said, nicht lange schnacken, einfach machen. And that is actually what we have implemented. And we just introduce some technologies, make people getting curious what it can do, and just attracting first maybe enthusiasts that would like to try out. So I created a kind of ecosystem alliance of the willings, and then it come more and more. And nowadays, I don't think that people would questions about digitalizations anymore within the Port Authority. They would like to be a part of it. Not everyone is coming at the same speed, but they see more and more benefit out of that. And I think that is the first step that you have to do, creating acceptance, creating awareness. Don't try to push so much at the same time. You have to also proportionate what people could receive, what can they digest in their daily life, and then not just blocking everything.
And I also found it interesting what you mentioned, the word alliance. So it's very important to cooperate with other players. Irene, maybe also a piece of advice to some people here. I know we have many founders in the audience. You are quite a small company. I think you have 13 people working for you, right? But you managed, for example, to get invited by NASA recently. So what's your piece of advice maybe for founders, be it in logistics or in a different industry, when it comes to helping them to foster alliances with other partners, grow into bigger ecosystems?
So what we did is, of course, we are not straight out of university. We were engineers with many years of experience in space and all these things. So we used our knowledge, knowing how to develop things. And what we did, of course, with every bit of money we got, we used it very efficient and always kept on going. So regardless of what people were saying, like, are you sure? Would you manage it? We are not sure about this and that. We were just constantly developing our system, and that's why we moved on so fast, and we were always posting our developments, and this raised the attention, and that's why it's not like we went there, but we got their attention, and this made it very special, and this is important, and just keep on going, you know.
Keeping on going is never a bad advice. I actually have one last question to Hendrik before we come to the closing round, because we're already approaching the end of this panel. I want to ask this question because later on, as Sarah mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about autonomous mobility again. And then looking back at our BigCom survey, 39% of companies believe that by 2030, the goods will be transported between companies with autonomous vehicles. Do you think that's a realistic timeline? Do we think it might even be sooner? Do you think it will take longer to really have full-scale operations?
So when you look at the autonomous trucking industry, it's also important to understand the different kind of use cases. So there are use cases where it already works today, and you can scale it today in those kind of confined areas. This is today a reality. This is not the distant future. And then there are use cases that will work within the next 5 years. And it will definitely not be working everywhere in 2030, what you mentioned in the study, but it will be working somewhere. When you have really clear use cases of a structured environment, for example, on the highways, could be a use case, or short-haul trucking. We have been discussing this earlier. There super clear opportunities where you have trucks shuttling hundreds of times a day between two hubs in a port, but on the public roads. And when you start providing the success stories and also applying the technology to those kind of use cases, definitely feasible in the next 5 years. And when you make it work there and build the trust with the customers, with the public, but also with the authorities, then scaling is just a question of time.
Speaking of time, we have 1 minute left. That brings me to my final question that I'd like to answer you with one word. So, one sentence at max. So if you could have one wish granted to overcome a major challenge in logistics, what would it be, Phanthian?
One word.
One word, one sentence if you want.
Don't wait.
Don't wait. Very nice. Hendrik.
A prototyping mindset.
And Irene?
Sustainability, of course.
Sustainability, also another very important aspect. So that brings us to the end of this panel. I'd like to thank all of you very much for being here. I'd like to thank you for listening in. I hope you got some inspirations. I definitely learned more about new job opportunities in the field of logistics, be it at Irene companies, at the Port Authority, or for Fernride. And I hope you learned something as well. And on that note, I'd like to say thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.